All right, welcome. Good morning. Can you hear me? Awesome. How is everybody doing today? Doing good, hopefully. Ooh, very cool. Apple Watch 3, very, very cool. I see a lot of people with those on. Aw, happy belated. Very exciting. Well, the sun is shining and it is Tuesday. We finished yesterday with our first lecture for this class. Hopefully a lot of you guys were able to listen to the recording if you were not here live. I know it's a lot of information. Today won't be as bad because, when I say bad, won't be as much information today because we are going to be doing a simple ad design for the assessment. So that's funny. Very, very cool. It's always fun to get like surprises, not surprises, but things like that in the mail that you're looking forward to for sure. Enjoy it. All right, well, welcome to week 1 live lecture 2. A few things to go over here just to, make sure everybody's on the same page. Just make sure you're getting those discussions started. I saw a few of you were doing that, which is great. And respond to your peers. Assignment 1 and your assessment 1 are due before midnight on Saturday. I don't know why it doesn't say Saturday on there, sorry. So make sure you're getting that in before that due date. That way I can give you feedback, you guys can revise and then go forward with your other pages. Because this is going to be an cumulative project. So you're going to need that time to make those revisions and go forward. With that being said, you guys have any questions, concerns? Before we get into anything right now, it's just a nice time to check to see where you are. Exactly. Yep, everybody should be in a good rhythm of knowing when your deadlines are due. And if you're having life issues, the faster that you are to communicate with me about those, the more flexible I may be able to be towards your situation. So it's key to kind of keep me posted and updated. Also, just make sure that you are checking into Canvas, into your classes. Obviously, if you're here and you're listening to this lecture, you are checked into your class, but also make sure you're participating in your discussion for the first week so that you're not closed out of the class. All right. I think everybody's good to go then. No questions about anything that we went over yesterday. Did you start on your editorial yet? Okay, let's rewind. Have you chosen a magazine yet? Okay. Okay. So maybe you're just kind of still stuck on which one to choose. I had a student email me yesterday asking if they could choose something else other than what's provided. And unfortunately, I wish I could say yes, but due to our policies with the university and our rubrics and all that good stuff, I have to say no. You have to go with what's specified in the assignment instructions. However, and I know this might be a lot of work, I would definitely encourage you if you wanted to do like a side-by-side project. So if you wanted to do something that was different than what's there, obviously choose one that's in the specifications, but then you can also work on another one of your choice. And that's always good to kind of get the practice. I mean, it probably is a lot of work. So don't put that on yourself if you don't want it. But it also is good if you want to use that for your portfolio possibly. So. Okay, Christina is asking Marcy if she's she chose one yet out of the 3. I love designing publication work. I just think it's just like, I don't know why. I think it's like the OCD part of my personality where I like to keep everything so orderly and contained into a gridded structure. And I like the challenge of kind of getting everything to fit. And yeah, I mean, it can be challenging. You know, I guess the biggest challenges are, and you'll kind of learn this as you go forward. When you're actually doing work for a client, it can constantly change. And when you're in, especially publication work, it's crazy how things can change. You could be thinking, okay, this is the way it's going to be. Everything's ready to go, and you're ready to go send it to the printer. And then all of a sudden somebody pulls an ad. And what I mean by that is, you know, somebody's not paying for their ad space, or they want to pull it all together, and you have to adjust everything based on that. So things happen like that all the time. So when you're a publication designer or you're working for a magazine or a publication, you always have to be very flexible. And I think designers have to be flexible always, not just with publication design, but especially in publication design, because things happen so quickly at the last minute before print. And it's just a lot of adjusting and revising. So it could be kind of crazy, but fun at the same time. Oh yeah, clients can be, and you know, people that you work for too. When I worked for publication companies, it wasn't like I was always working directly with the client. I was also working with team members. I was working with publishers, ad people within the company. So not only did you have to work with clients outside of the actual publication, but I also had to work with in-house people too. So that can be kind of challenging. Everybody has to be on the same page and communicate with one another, because there could be issues there too. Oh yeah, but that's just with everything, right? If you don't have good communication, forget it. Things can get very crazy. All right. So as we go forward here, like I said, it's going to be a little bit less of a heavy class today. So hopefully this will balance out with the first lecture. I know I went over a lot of stuff, and we kind of went over time a little bit. So today we're just going to check in like I was just doing, and then I'm going to go over your assessment 1. This is going to be an interesting project to kind of make you think about setting up a grid for a specific ad. Have you guys really think about your design principles and putting that into place with your ad. When you're working for a publication, sometimes clients come to you because they don't have a designer to create their ads. So you could be asked to do that. A lot of the times they're already created and you just plop them in there. But sometimes, you know, a client doesn't have that service, and they reach out to the publication themselves to have the designer do it. So we're going to do that. We're going to redesign an ad for the assessment 1. And then I'm going to leave it up to you guys if you want to show anything, have any questions. We'll just kind of open it up for critique. Before we even get into all of that, I just wanted to go over some things about magazine ads, since you guys will be designing one eventually at the end of this magazine process. You will be designing an ad for this magazine. So let's go over the 7 helpful tips on designing magazine ads. Yeah, very cool. So if you are advertising in a magazine, there are different ways to make sure that the advert, and that's like the ad, works for you as well as possible. So assuming your message and your offer has been decided, it is important that the design of your advert works well. So we're kind of thinking about you as a designer for an ad, because you could be a freelance designer or working for an ad agency or working in-house for somebody who's creating an ad to put into certain magazines. So this is kind of in that perspective. So when you're designing these ads, you want to make sure that it's the suitability for the magazine audience is right on point. You want to make sure that you are creating an ad that fits well within a specific magazine. So you want that to align with whomever you're placing your ad into. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? You wouldn't just post, like for instance, if you had a fitness magazine that you wouldn't be posting like, I don't know, maybe junk food ads in there, something non-relatable to that. So, you know, you really want to make sure that it goes well. I mean, I guess it could work well if you were like a diet place, I don't know. But, you know, kind of thinking about the suitability of it. Does it work for the actual publication itself? Yeah, it's funny that like, or eating contest. I just passed, there was like, I went down the road the one day and I saw a sign and it had logos of places in this strip mall, and there was a Dunkin' Donuts logo, and right next to that, literally, and on the strip mall, the Dunkin' Donuts was right next to Weight Watchers. I'm like, I guess that kind of works. Yeah, so kind of funny. But anyway, in an ad, the right-hand side is preferred over the left. And what they're talking about is where you're putting the most important information. So for instance, on this particular ad, you know, they show you pretty much this focal point image in the background. Yeah, there you go. Don't feel guilty. But then at the very bottom right, it's almost like a send-off, okay? Because we usually work from left to right, you know? So left to right, the very right is right before you actually stop looking at it. And it is kind of the send-off. So a lot of ads usually utilize the right-hand side for really important information, like call-out information, what you want the viewer to do or remember the overall message. So here, the overall message is written here, kind of supporting the visual, and also, and I can't really read it really well, but it looks like there is a logo and possibly a web address. So, I just got a pop-up, sorry. Littering says a lot about you, it says. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly. It's a little hard to read there. So thinking about that, remember that sweet spot of call out, you know, putting the most important information there. Resolution is another thing to always keep in mind when you're dealing with a magazine. When you're printing in a magazine, typically you want to keep it at the highest resolution. Now, if it's online, that's a different story. That can be 72 dots per inch because that's being viewed on screen. But if it's being printed in a magazine, 300 dots per inch is preferred for the sharpest, you know, imagery and elements. If you are working for another thing to think about too, if you, and this is some kind of strange, typically you talk with the printer before you actually print anything. So they will let you know kind of what to expect and what they would like as far as like print specifications. There's some cases where a magazine might be printed on newsprint paper. So the resolution might be a little lower because of that. And that's because the way that the newsprint interacts with the ink is a little different. So you don't really want a high concentration of dots on a page because it spreads very, very quickly. So that's the only consideration. Yeah, but typically, you know, paying attention to resolution is important. Include your call to action. You know, what's the overall purpose of an ad if you don't know what you want it, what the ad is telling you to do? It could say something like, come see us, come visit us. buy my product, go to our website, buy this before it's too late. You know, those type of things you always want to have within your ad, because that's the overall purpose of your ad, right? That's so if the call to action isn't there, people are not going to know what it is that ad's trying to tell you. So make sure you have a call to action on there. Choose images wisely. You know, sometimes we don't think about how it's going to fit into a magazine, especially if it's like a full page ad, like for instance here. How is it going to stand up to what is relative within that magazine? So choose images wisely. You want to make sure that it looks like an ad. It doesn't blend in. So obviously you wouldn't make it look like part of the magazine by making it look like a magazine layout, because then it would be confusing. So you want to make sure it looks like an ad, and the images within it you're choosing wisely for that specific purpose. Using space well is also important. You want to utilize the space in your ad, especially if it's a smaller ad. You don't want to make it too overwhelming in terms of what you have in your ad. You want it to be clear, to the point. You want it to be interesting enough to catch someone's attention, to hold their attention, and be memorable. But use that space well so that it is effective in that way. You can test the advert. There's been times when I actually do mock-ups. I've done tons and tons of mock-ups for ad agencies, when I worked for ad agencies and also publication companies. So that's when you actually, the ad has not been officially printed in the magazine as of yet, but you can kind of mock it up to make it look like it is. So you can print that out in your office and kind of paste it onto pages and show it like that. You can also do this virtually too. I'm sure that's probably done nowadays. I'm kind of the old school, back in the old school days where we just copy, cut, paste, spray mount. But what's nice about this is you can actually see what it will look like, and then that way, if it needs to change in any way, especially because if it's a smaller ad and you don't realize how maybe certain things are hard to see or hard to read, or you know, you need to kind of adjust certain things. Yep, mock-ups are good. They can be kind of time consuming, so I wouldn't always do that. But if it's called, if you're like, okay, I'm going to test this just to see what this is going to look like, you could even just print it at true size just to see what it looks like too, and just kind of plop it into a magazine just to see what it would look like. Like I said, we did a lot of these. A lot of the times too, on another note, we would have sales rep guys that would come in and say, can you mock me up what this ad would look like if they were to do it, so that we can bring more business into our either ad agency or publication company. So they would come to us as designers if we had free time. And they would say, what would this look like if you created an ad for them? And then you would actually create the ad and mock it up, and they would take it to the client and they would say, this is what your ad could look like. So they would be like, you know, hopefully, oh yeah, that's awesome, let's go with it. So it drums up business. It kind of gives them a way to see what it will look like. So that's also a great strategy if you're trying to get more business. And also as a designer too. I've often done this with, say, like a brand book, where, say, if a client came to me, and this is a lot of times in my freelance business, and they just wanted to revise their logo, and they wanted a new logo, and that was it. Well, I would do that, but then I would also go, you know, another step forward and put it into a brand book to show them what their logo would look like in an advertisement, maybe on a business card, stationery, poster, whatever kind of was relative to whatever I was working on the brand for, that I thought maybe that they would want. Then you would mock it up either virtually or, you know, physically, and show them, hey, I have your logo, this is the one that you chose, but this is also what I can do for you. So it also kind of helps them visually see what else they can what else you can do for their brand and can drum up some business too. Have I used mock-ups when doing book covers for clients? Because I kind of did book covers more in the later part of my career, like more recently, no. I've just, mock-ups I usually use virtually, not actual physical mock-ups. So yes, I guess to answer your question, I have done mock-ups, but they're more on the virtual side. Like nowadays, it's so awesome. Now, back in my day, whenever I was in school and actually working too at ad agencies, we would actually have to do our virtual mock-ups. We would have to create from scratch virtually, like through Photoshop. Now there's those PSD templates, those mock-up templates that are so, they have those smart objects layers. So all you need to do is plop in the logo and there you go, boom, you have an instant mock-up. So it's definitely changed throughout the years, but yeah, I have done that. Actually, I have, let me see if I actually have an example of one. I mocked it up because it wasn't printed fully. It's printed now, but at the time it wasn't. Let me see if I can pull that up. And it's a book cover that I did for clients this past year. And I showed them how it looked in this way before it was actually printed. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Sorry, I have my password I have to put in here and verify all that good stuff. Hold on one second. So just so you can see what it looks like. The printed piece I actually don't have yet because it just printed. So hopefully I'll get the actual cover to photograph. But this is the one that I was just talking about here. I just did for an author recently. And this is a PSD mock-up, but this is what the cover will look like. Obviously, you can even tell it's kind of a PSD mock-up. So eventually, hopefully, I will be able to get the real cover. There was another, let's see here. See, where's it? Oh, this one is the real cover that I did too. So this is a real photograph. So it just shows you kind of the different variations there. So pretty interesting. But yeah, so just kind of testing it out will allow you to see things maybe differently than you saw it before on your screen. Aw, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I have to put some new stuff on there. I haven't really updated that in a while. Wants to know who the unstoppable leader is? Who that is? That is, the author wrote that about their principal in North Carolina that actually, a long time ago, he's one of the Black leaders in that area for the city. I think it was Durham, but he was very influential in Black history, and that city did a lot of things for the community. So it's kind of like an inspirational tell all about this principal that he had. Kind of interesting stories in there. And the author is a professor he lives in Florida now, but he teaches online for school in South Carolina. So pretty cool. So it's kind of a way of him giving his perspective on this person that he met and who inspired him in his life. All right, so going forward here, now that we kind of know the tips and tricks and things to think about when you're designing an ad, we won't be designing an ad for this magazine as of yet, but kind of keep those things in mind when we do. That's kind of going forward here. Some things to think about. Okay, so your assessment 1, so we went over your discussion, we went over your assignment 1. Your assessment one will be pretty much going over the importance and power of grids. Grids are a way to organize information and allow it to be easier, I guess, digest things easier visually, especially if you have a lot of different elements coming into play. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's great to be inspired by people around you and just hear their stories and reflect back um, on that with your own life. Kind of gives you another perspective and makes you appreciative of things in your life as well. So, all right, so go ahead and read through this background. It talks about just things to think about when you're designing and planning out your grid structure. It talks about ruler guides, and we played around with those yesterday when I was kind of pulling those. I call them margin guides, but you're kind of pulling them out to help you align on your page. They don't print; they're just helpful for you to create grids on your page. Yep. Guidelines, we talked about guides that help you, again, with rows and columns. Column guides are the tool of choice for creating and managing columns of text. Baseline grid, and we talked about this yesterday, baseline grid, and you'll probably, hopefully not, but you probably will hear me say, make sure your baseline grid is aligned. And the baseline grid is basically the baseline of all of your columns of text. And I showed you how to keep those all, make sure you kept your body copy all in check with your baselines all aligned option in your style sheets. If you missed that, review yesterday's lecture for that. The document grid, I showed you also how that overlays like a graph paper. You can use that to your advantage too. Sometimes it's not quite needed, but if you need it there, it's there. All right, go ahead and read through the rest of this, just talking about hierarchy. Now that you're familiar with several types of grids and can differentiate between effective and ineffective grid use when communicating with the end user, it's time to put your knowledge to the test. So for this assessment, you will redesign an existing advertisement using well-defined grid structure to enhance visual hierarchy. Differentiate between effective and ineffective grid use and explore multiple options to amplify and improve your design concepts. Your grid should make the content easy for the end user to understand. Use your space well, and keep in mind there are many possible and viable solutions to this creative challenge. Things to think about. So these are the assignment instructions. Use InDesign only, 8.5 by 11 portrait format for this. There's a folder you can download. You will find an example of the existing advertisement. I'm going to open this up right now. And it will also include imagery that you can use in the ad that you're redesigning. All photos must be used. You may crop or resize any photo. Also included in this folder is a Word document containing the text for this creative grid challenge. You must use all of the text in the Word document. Apply a well-defined grid structure to enhance visual hierarchy. Once you're done, you're going to export it as a PDF and then submit it. There are 2 examples down here I'm going to download so you guys can check this out. These are just benchmark examples. So actually, let me open up the folder first that's given to you and show you what the original ad looks like before I even show you these. Give me 1 second. I have all this stuff kind of floating around here. Okay, so in this folder that you need to download, I'm going to show you what's in here. Once you download it, you'll see there's a banana image, fruit slices, grapes, oranges, strawberries, a Word document, and then the example. Okay, hold on. I know you're typing the chat and I can't see it. Give me 1 second here. This is the example that you're to look off of, but not emulate. Okay, you're going to do something different. Oh, okay. There you go. See, you already kind of have that in your mind to check that. That's great. Christina is bringing up the idea of checking in Photoshop the picture that you're placing into your layouts to make sure that the size, resolution, and color mode are all correct. Always great habit to get into. Yep. So this is the original ad, and you know what? It looks pretty good. But what you're going to do is you're going to create a different grid structure than this, okay? Not to say that this isn't working. You're just going to create something different in a different grid structure, okay? So here's the examples that are given to you guys that other students have done that are also provided in your specs here. Now there's comments made by an instructor in here, so there's always room for improvement, but you can kind of get the gist of what other people have done that, you know, look a little different here. Let's see. So you can see in each, oh, there goes my clock. Hold on, guys. It's that time again. And when should I have to hear my clock? You love the clock. It's good, but it's so loud. Okay, so you can see there's like, what do you guys see first when you look at this ad? Where's your eye go to? You might hear me moving here. Probably to the image, right? My eye goes right to those oranges. Yeah, so that's the focal point. That's the first thing that you see, which is good. That pulls you in. Oh, what's this article about? Then what? What do you see next? You see the headline, right? Why is it important to eat fruit? That's the next thing on the list. So you see the imagery pulls you in, then you go to the next order, which is the headline, and then it goes to the intro text, and then it goes down smaller into your health benefits. So there's an order to this, a hierarchical order, where you know where to look first, second, third, and fourth. Yep. So you're not wondering, where am I supposed to look? And as designers, it's our job to create this hierarchical order so that the person looking at it knows where to look first, second, third, and fourth. Okay? And that's the purpose of not only grids, to organize this information in a way that it flows very smoothly visually, but also the hierarchy of your elements. Okay? Now let's look at, let's see here, this one. This is a different grid structure, but you can see there's still that order of elements somewhat. I mean, there's some adjustments that need to be made to make it more equal and aligned a little bit better, but for the most part you can see that they're using a different grid structure, but the order of elements is the same, right? So you want to keep it very similar in terms of how these are set up. Just you're going to rearrange the grid, okay? Now you can have the headline bigger if you want, but for the most part you want to keep this order. You don't want to make the health benefits like the biggest focal point on your ad, okay, for example. You want to have that balance within your layout. Does that make sense? But you could kind of play around with the overall order of your elements in terms of placing them in different areas. Okay. So those are the two examples given to you in the right down here. So just have fun with it. Download this folder. Open up InDesign. I'm going to open it up right now. Make it 8.5 by 11. So it's a portrait, like a full page ad. I'm going to reset my essentials. You don't have to worry about making style sheets for this ad. If you want to for practice, that's fine. But because it's just an ad, you don't have to really worry about it, I don't think. Ads usually are just like a one-time deal. Sometimes if you're working with a client that you know they're going to do several different ads, it might be a good idea to set up style sheets just because you know, okay, they're going to have eventually other ads that will be very similar, just different sizes. So in that case, you might want to create style sheets, but you know, it's all very relative to what you're working on. Okay, so I thought I downloaded this folder. Let me go back. Sorry, guys. I guess I downloaded it, but I didn't throw it on my desktop. So let me download the folder that's in the assignment so I have it. All right, it's in my download area. There we go. Okay, go back. Okay, so I'm going to open up my Word file first. Read through that. Make sure it's spell checked, just like your other articles. Show you what this looks like. Go up to Tools in Word, do a spell check, looks good. Then what you need to do is just go ahead and select all, either do Command A or just double click on top and do Command C. Go back to your InDesign layout. I'm just going to take the type tool and just draw out one big text box just to get it in there. And do a Command V for paste. And I could kind of throw this on the side here if I want to just like leave that out of the way. And then what I can do is just take a look at, you know, all the imagery that I have. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images that I have to show in here. So it would really be helpful to bring up your rulers. Right now I have rulers displayed, so it says hide rulers, but go ahead and go up to view if you don't see them on your artboard. Show rulers. You have, just to show you too, you have the rulers on the top and the sides. If you want to make sure your 0 axis point hits right at the top corner here. Now don't forget, if you have a bleed like I do, mine's set to 1/8, you'll see the red bleed here. But this is the trim edge where the white hits the gray. So this is where that true size of your document starts, and this is where it trims. So if your 0 on both top and side of your rulers are not right at the very top corner, all you need to do is click right in the top left-hand side here, click and drag it down and set it right over top. Okay, that'll set your rulers to 0 where it needs to be. Now you can always set it differently, like if you wanted to set it here, see how it changes? And then you can always set it back. I just wanted to show you guys that so you were aware of that. You can change that. And what that basically does just allows you to see the size. You can set your margins up to, you know, where half of the page is and all that good stuff. Another thing about rulers, and like I showed yesterday, you can pull your grid out here, your guides, your margin guides, I call them. And these are guides just to help you visually set up your page so that you kind of can play around with different areas of maybe where the imagery will be, the type, and you can pull them not only vertically but also horizontally. Okay. So you can kind of, and these are always editable. You can, as long as you don't have them locked. So if you go up to view and grids and guides, if you lock these, you won't be able to move them. And sometimes we like to lock them if we're trying to select everything on our page to like pull off. You don't want to select those guides, so you'll just lock them. If you want to be able to manipulate them, don't have them locked. This way, if you select them with your tool, you can always delete them or move them. These won't print, they're just for you to, you know. Yes. Yeah, so like they'll move with you. If you select all, it's going to select, you know, especially if you drag over. I think select all, it doesn't select it, but if you drag over, see how it kind of got darker? Those will be movable. So just kind of, but you can always move these. Just click right on top of them and you can kind of adjust them, you know, whatever you need. But what you're going to do is you're going to kind of rearrange these elements. And what you might want to do is kind of sketch some ideas out before you even get onto the computer. Sometimes that's always nice to do. Just do a random loose sketch of like, okay, this is where I want the type. This is where I want the imagery. How do I want my hierarchy set up? You know, play around with that. Because this is kind of like a cooking show, I already have something planned in my mind. So I kind of already went through that process. So I'm speeding it up here. So what I'm going to focus on is, I think, first maybe the imagery and then the type. But I kind of know I want my images, you know, 1/3 on the page here. So I'm using a 1/3 grid. So I'm going to go ahead and take my rectangle frame tool. And because my images bleed, I'm going to kind of use that bleed here on the upper top, left, and bottom of my rectangle framed tool. The rectangle frame tool is a great way to place in like a rectangle or a square type shape object. I'm going to place in, let's see, fruit slices here. Now this isn't to size because those fruit slices are, if I double click on this, you'll see that this is more wide than it is tall. So I'm just going to select this again one time and go up to object and fitting and fill frame proportionally. And that's going to fill it in a way that obviously will work for this now. It's fitting it not only widthwise, but, you know, vertically. So I can kind of move this around and choose kind of the area that I like to be shown here. I have a lot. Ooh. See if I can move it. I kind of like this more so. It's a little fuzzier in the background, depth of field. Okay, I think I move this down a little bit. Sure, I'm hitting that bleed there. All right, so I started at 3. I have my guide at 3, and I'm thinking maybe around here is when my copy will start. And then maybe my imagery will start here as well. So let's see, this is the halfway mark. Boop. So I kind of know the halfway point of my document height-wise. Width-wise, sorry. I get all that confused. I'm going to pull this over to my area of my text area, which I'm going to start where this margin starts. I want to leave a white margin here just so it's not right up against it. If it's right up against it, it's going to be really hard to read. So make sure you're giving it some visual white balanced space there so that it's easier to read and follow. I'm actually going to give it a little bit more. I'm going to go all the way to 4. I'm going to split this in half because what I'm going to do, I have a plan to put in the other images in here and they're going to kind of overlap. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take a rectangle frame tool. If you hold the shift key down, it makes a perfect square or it makes a proportionate whatever shape that you're using. And now I'm going to kind of adjust this so that it hits right on the halfway mark there. So I'm kind of adjusting things here as I go. All right, I'm going to alt drag this down because I have some other images I want to place in here, but I want to equally space these out. So I'm going to go up to my window and I'm going to choose Align, which is right under my Object and Layout panel. Always revert Always revert back to the alignment panel box to help say align boxes. So I just did a shift select of all 4 boxes, and I'm going to do a distribute vertical center. And what that's going to do is just distribute it equally in between each other vertically. I'm stealing your ideas. That's funny. So you can kind of pull out some more grid areas here. And this would be kind of where these boxes meet. See that? What's nice about a grid structure is you can never lose with a grid structure. You'll only win with this because alignment is key to a lot of successful layouts. So you might have a lot of things going on, but if you keep it in a good order visually, it'll be most likely successful. So let me name this here so I don't lose this. So that's kind of what's nice about a grid. All right. So now I've created these little very similar squares, same size, same ratio for rhythm, having that rhythm. I'm going to place in the rest of my imagery here. So I'm going to go place my bananas. Command D is file place. I'm going to place in my grapes. Object fitting, fill frame proportionately. Command D, strawberries. Object fitting, fill frame proportionately, and oranges. This doesn't have to be in this order, it's just the way that I decided to do it. Completely up to you. So let me show you what this looks like without all the lines. So you can see it's very organized. I have a focal point image, but then I also have other smaller imagery that's kind of that nice rhythm to my ad. And now I have a space for my copy. Now, see all these lines that I created? There's a reason for that. These lines are kind of what I want to pay attention to align not only my imagery, but also my type. There's a reason why you place things in a certain way. You don't randomly just, I wouldn't just randomly place this up here. Okay, so we want to make sure that it looks balanced and it's aligned. Without doing anything right now as far as alignment is concerned, I'm going to focus on changing my type first, because this is going to, some type's going to get bigger and some type's going to get, change. So I would definitely choose the typeface. Go ahead and kind of play around with the typeface that you want. I'm going to choose a very simple typeface, Veneer, that I think will work well. It has a nice font family to it, very clean looking. And my body copy, I'm going to do 10 point by 14 point leading. It's a nice spaced out ratio with point size of leading and point size of type and leading. And then with the headline, I want this to be bigger. I'm going to choose 40. Now, pay attention to how things are breaking too. See how I have this hyphen here? That's a bad break. I don't really want that. So what I always like to say is, say it out loud how you would actually say the headline. Why is it important to eat fruit? Why is it important to eat fruit? So maybe kind of have it break in a way that you're emphasizing fruit at the end, but you're breaking it too is how you're saying it. So why is it important to eat fruit? So why is it important? Can be on the same line if you want to too, but because I'm making it larger in point size, it's going to have to break in this way. But as long as I don't have a hyphen, I'm good. Then I'm going to make this emphasize. So I'm going to make it bold. So I'm kind of making it more have more emphasis on it. Why, thank you. A little trick that somebody taught me along the way, like say things out loud so you can hear it and break it the way that you hear it. Because if you don't, it kind of reads in that way, same way. It could read in an awkward way. Another thing to be mindful of is there are subheads in here that need to be kind of stand out. You don't want it to kind of, right now it's blending into each other, right? So this would be one of the headlines that you could make stand out. So I would make this, and you don't have to, but just make it more emphasis. Like you can make it bigger, you can make it more bold, you can make it both. You know, whatever, however you want to do it, just make it look like it stands out from the rest of the copy. And that's just, you know, visual hierarchy. You're kind of giving that break in importance to certain areas of your text, and just makes it easier to follow and read and know what's important. Same thing here. I'm going to make this more bold, although I don't want it to bounce down, so I'll probably leave it at 10 points. And just make it more bold. Spacing is good, you know, after each paragraph. So I have a hierarchical order here. Now, you can also make the headlines match more of the ad by maybe taking a part of the color from the ad itself. So what I mean by that is take your type tool, select the copy, say if you want to change this to a color that's within your ad, it will unify it a little bit better and make it more, you know, interesting. So I'm going to take, with that top 3 lines of my headline, I'm going to go ahead and select it with the type tool, and then use my eyedropper tool to kind of select, you know, a specific color in my ad. I would definitely select something for this one a little bit darker because it is a thinner font. It is bold, but you know, you don't want it to get lost either. So if you're using a smaller point size, kind of be aware that you should probably choose something that's a little bit darker in color so it's not hard to read. It's actually not too bad. And also remember, this ad will be in a full page ad in a magazine, so it's going to be about 6 to 8 inches away from your face. So knowing that can maybe give you a better idea of how to size everything and what to kind of make more, you know, emphasized. I actually think I want to do, I'm going to make this maybe more of a reddish pink here. So play around with it, see what you can do. And you don't have to do what I'm doing either. You can treat it a lot differently, but just kind of keep those things in mind. Okay, the next thing is alignment, because I can see right now my halfway mark of my ad is right where this line is here. Boom. So I want to make sure that this copy box is, you know, pretty aligned to that halfway mark. This would be halfway. There must be a space after this. Hold on. Giving me that. There we go. So I'm pulling out my text box and I can see that I'm almost at the halfway mark here. Let me pull it up. And it's actually working out perfect because look up here. Way up here is my alignment of the bottom of my image is the bottom of my copy. Zoom in, make sure that's aligned perfectly. See how that's aligned to that same bottom? That actually works out perfect. So it's super close to it. So it's very balanced. You know, obviously it's a little weightier on the left with the imagery. I can kind of do something to change that a little bit too, but you can tell that, you know, it's definitely even and there's a grid structure. So if I wanted to say if this is like a little bit more weighty on the left side, there's things that I can do with this. Let me pull this to the left here. Just some things to think about. I'm just moving everything to the left a little bit. Be mindful of all your spaces here. I'm going to alt drag this over here, and I'm just going to give us just a little tab over here. And this is just going to balance the overall layout a little bit better. So I would do something like that. See how that kind of changed it a little bit, where it's a little bit more visually balanced. So little things like that you can do. Think about how you want to rearrange this. It could be completely opposite. You could play around with all kinds of different variations. Just because I showed you this one and the others, it shouldn't stop you from playing around with different ideas. There's so many different things that you can do. Does anybody have any questions in regards to what I just showed you? No questions. Okay. I'm trying to find, here we go. When you're ready to, and you could do, like I showed you before, you can add effects to this. Like say if you wanted to add a drop shadow to maybe just the images here, by all means, kind of play around with it. I wouldn't add a drop shadow to your type just because it makes it a little harder to read, but you can play around with your images if you would like. This one might not show. Yeah, it's because it's on the right side. So that kind of just pops a little bit. You don't have to do squares, you can do circles. Like say if you wanted to do circles instead of squares, make circles instead of squares. Or whatever design that you wish. Just have fun with it. Play around with the elements, what works, what's consistent. I'm going to make sure these are all aligned still here. There we go. That one was off. So even though it may seem like you don't have a lot of options, you do. You just need to play around with it. Oranges, strawberries, what am I missing here? Fruit slices, bananas, fruit slices. Just showing you some things, different ideas here. I would probably take, if you want to take a drop shadow off, this is how you would do it. You just go to your, let me bring it up. Not that. Properties panel, which I had up before here. Properties panel here, let me get rid of that. So let's say I don't want a drop shadow on this background image. Go to your properties panel. It should show your FX, which is your drop shadow, and just go ahead and clear it. Okay. All right, so then when you're ready, go ahead and file. You're going to export this out as a PDF. And you could do smallest file, that's fine, because I'm just viewing it on my screen. And then go ahead and open it just to make sure everything looks good. I'm going to open up both of these here for you. You can see two different ones that I did, but somewhat similar grid structure here. So here's one, and then there's this one. Any questions? And that's what you're going to submit. pretty cool though. I think you guys will have fun with this. That will go quicker than I think the first assignment. So yeah, I think that'll be a fun and interesting assessment. Yep, extra work. There you go. You got it. All right. Oh, I did want to show you, there was one thing I missed yesterday before we wrap it up, and if you need to show anything, because I'm going to open it up for critique. If not, we can wrap it up early, that's fine too. But there was one thing that I wanted to show that I completely forgot in your assignment 1. So let me go ahead and open that up real quick. I think we just had a lot to go over on the first. I think the next time I teach this, it would be probably best to kind of cut this maybe in half of what I did in the first lecture, because the second one obviously is a little less information. Okay. So what I wanted to show you was and I didn't get to show you this, was how to create a drop cap. Do you know how to create a drop cap? Do you know what a drop cap is? And this is for your assignment 1, by the way. So a drop cap is a first letter of your body copy, first paragraph only. So it should only appear at the very beginning of your article, nowhere else. A drop cap just allows the eye to go straight to where you need to start with the body copy at the very beginning of your first paragraph of your article. I've had students that accidentally will create a drop cap, will put it on the first paragraph of their article, but then it'll also appear on the second paragraph and the third. We don't need it on those. It's just, that's the drop cap's purpose is to only be on the very, very start of your article in the body copy, just to let the reader know this is the beginning of the article. So if you had it on all of your paragraphs, that doesn't make sense. It kind of is confusing. It makes it seem like this is a totally different article, right? Now it's a little tricky because drop caps, and I think this is why this happens as far as adding it to other paragraphs, you have to create another paragraph style for this, completely different than your body copy, because it will apply to every single paragraph of your body copy if you don't. So go to your styles and choose paragraph. Remember how we were creating paragraph styles before? We already have a body copy one, right? So we want to create another one, but we're going to add a drop cap to it. So it'll be the only body copy one that you're going to apply to the very first and only paragraph of every article piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of your body copy style. So we're going to drag this down. Okay, you're good. And right next to the trash can, you're going to just drop it right there, right on that little icon. Now there's another way you can do that. You don't have to drag it down there. You can also, and let me get my cursor out of here so I'm not changing this. You can also click on your body copy and go up the right-hand corner and just say duplicate style. It's another way of doing it. When you do that, it automatically brings up your paragraph style box here. We're going to name this body copy drop cap so that you know to only use this for the very first start of your paragraph of your body copy only. Okay? So it just kind of made a duplicate of your body copy style. The only thing that we're going to change in here is drop cap style. So go ahead and select drop cap and nested styles. And we're going to look up here in your assets and we're going to change this. It right now says 0 lines and 0 characters. So the lines are how many lines that your letter will drop down to. So if you choose 2 lines, it's going to drop down to the next sentence below. That's how big it'll be. 3 lines, so on and so forth. Typically, it's 2 lines, but I mean, it's not like you have to go by that rule. You see in a lot of magazines where the drop cap's huge, drops down like 5 or 6, 7, 8 lines, and it's just really big. I'm going to stick with 2 for now, just to kind of experiment. You only want it to affect one character, the first letter of your paragraph, and everything else should be good. If you want it to be more bold, you can go back up to your basic styles, and you can change this to bold if you want. You can even change the character color. Just make sure it makes sense for your magazine, and click OK. Now, it won't apply it until you actually select where you want to apply it to. So what you want to do is you want to select that P, oops, and you want to, no, we don't want this to be affected either. It's going to affect the whole thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and undo this, and I'm going to show you a better way to do this. So I forget what I told you about making this bold and colored. Sorry, guys. We go back to none or black. Everything should be fine. The only thing that you need to do is change it to 2 lines and 1 character. Okay, everything else should be the same. Don't change the bold. Don't change it to bold. We can do this later. Don't change the character color. We'll do this later. Click OK. Sorry, guys. So this is kind of what it'll look like when you apply it. So you're going to select this whole paragraph and choose that. If you wanted to make this bold, you're going to choose what? You're going to make a what? I kind of skipped a step here. You're going to create a character style. We never created a character style. We always created paragraph styles, right? Because paragraph styles are more than 1 word, and a character style is maybe 1 word or maybe a letter. Okay? So what we're going to do, let's click off of this. We're going to go to character styles. If you don't have that up, go to Window, Styles, Character Styles. And we're going to create a new character style. And we can make this the same font family. So we're going to do Times New Roman. We're going to make this bold though, like we were just talking about. We can make it blue. The only thing, let me see here. I'm going to click OK. See if it's going to affect the size. No, it's not. Okay. So you're just going to click OK, and then you're going to highlight that drop cap, go to your character styles, and apply. You can actually rename this drop cap. Okay. And actually, I'm going to change this so that this is Helvetica. Just because my subheads are Helvetica. Let me go regular. So it kind of works with my subheads. Does that make sense? So what you'll do is you'll create a drop cap style. You'll just duplicate your body copy. When you do that, you're going to make sure only the thing that you change is the drop cap. So you're going to change this to 2 lines. Rename it drop cap, click OK. Then you're going to create a new style in your character styles. And in that, you're going to rename it drop cap. Give it whatever font family that you want. You're only affecting the first letter. You can make it bold, you can make it a color, and click OK. And then when you're ready to apply it, just highlight that and then apply the character style. So then any time that you have the next, and we're going to be designing more than 1 article in here. So the next article, I believe, will start here next week. You can apply that same style, just the drop cap, to that first paragraph, as well as your other styles that we have here. So it's consistent. And I forgot to show you that because we were on kind of, I had so much to tell you guys that it just kind of slipped my mind, and I wanted to review that back with you guys so you knew what to do. All right. Any questions, concerns, anything that you want to share? I know you're the only one in here now. Yeah, lost some people here, but busy. person and a mother. Yep. A mother to a kid and a fur baby. All right. Oh my gosh. It's like the strangest feeling not to have her around because I have her in daycare along with like half day kindergarten. And I've never had her in daycare before. So I was always like, I have 50-50 custody of her. So my time, I had her all the time. So it's kind of an adjustment on my end, but it's definitely something that's needed on both of our lives. Like she'll be better off next year when she starts full-time first grade. I think she'll be more prepared, and it just allows me more time to get my work done. So yeah, I think it's an emotional thing that we all go through. But I think it's good for them, and I like to see her grow, and it's really cool to see her blossom. And she needs more than I can give her right now. So not with your boys. You're like, just go. I think boys are a little different, right? I don't have them, but I've heard. It's funny. Yeah, so she's doing good, so I'm happy. And I have more balanced time to work on my stuff, so that's good. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have friends who have kids that have that, and there's constantly something. I'm very lucky to not have that present in my daughter, but I've seen people struggle with their kids with that. And my sister actually too. She has 2 kids that have that, so yeah. All right. Is there anything that you want to go over? Do you want to review anything? Additional questions? Yeah, whatever you want to do. You want to share yours? Okay, you can unmute yourself too, so we could just talk. There you go.
Let me just share here. Okay, this is what I got.
Hi, Christina.
How are you?
Good. This looks good. Okay, zoom out a little bit. All right. Very, very nice. So you got your page numbers set up. That looks good. Okay. You did a great job. Look at you. Perfect.
Well, these come, but I had to do it. I had to actually do this at 11 o'clock at night because, yeah, like I said, my boys, yeah.
Yeah, whatever the cracks of time, I always called it. I do it in the cracks of time.
Well, they're excited because we're going to Utah for the graduation, even though they're doing it in Ohio this next year.
Oh, okay.
So we've go to Utah.
Oh.
And my oldest, both boys are ADHD with hyperactivity.
Okay.
And so he was coming out talking about 5 to 6 different subjects at once. I'm like, calm down. I said, I gotta do my work in order to graduate, dude.
Oh, well, that's very cool. That'll be exciting. Very cool.
Well, yeah, they're gonna end up taking a tour of the Independence University. I was told they can take a tour of the college.
They would what? Say that again?
They're gonna take a tour of the college.
Oh,
so they're
cool.
excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did notice one thing, it's just a small thing. Go down to your page 7. I like how you have the line under the byline too. That's cool. Okay, see where your bullet points are?
Right here?
The sentence above that, it's where it says if you cannot exercise, you can bump exercise back up to the next line there. Just hit delete. There you go. That's a small change. I think I just
I was messing with this area with the weather because it seemed like it was too far away, and I know it's a different paragraph, and I kept on moving it up and back down.
Oh, that's probably why. Yeah. Yeah, that looks great. That looks
But
really
yeah, I know you mentioned about the drop cap yesterday, and I wasn't thinking until you brought it up today. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but that'll be, I think, easy. I mean, you have a lot done pretty much. You just have to do that. But it looks great. Good job. Excellent.
Well, I was gonna turn to two, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
The only other thing, just a very small thing, your headline up there says One Mom's Journey. I would bump to be healthy to the next, to be to the next line where healthy is. Just do like a shift return there. There you go. One Mom's Journey to be healthy.
I'm thinking about turning this into a different color,
Okay, yeah, I
just
think that would work.
because it popped. That's where I have my line under.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I would definitely, you can explore that for sure. I would do something that's obviously unifies with the colors of the magazine like you did above, but you did a great
Oh
job.
yeah, and the job shadow, I figured to have it on the side,
Hmm.
as well as the one on the side.
Yep, looks great. Good job.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it helps to see other people's work, other people viewing other people's work, just to see where they are. So good job with, I mean, you pretty much have it. You just have to put your drop cap in and you're good to go. Great job. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up, and just don't forget to do your daily checkpoints during the week. Start your discussion if you haven't yet, definitely before tomorrow, because that's when the initial post is due. And just get started with your assignment one, because it's going to take a little longer probably than what you expected with all the style sheets. So get that started as soon as possible. And if you guys run into any issues, please, please, please reach out to me. I just posted also the learning coach hours and contact information and announcements. So if I'm not available for some reason, you can reach out to the learning coach. Don't forget student services is also available. You have to make an appointment for that as well. But if you're struggling, even if it's just the page numbers, the master pages, style sheets, just let me know. I'm here to help you guys. I want you, if you succeed, I succeed as an instructor. So I want to see all of you do very well in this class and come out of it learning a lot. So, all right, have a great, wonderful week. I'll be seeing you on the boards and talking to you soon. Oh, yeah. You know what? I just turned into. I just accepted a full-time job at IU as a FPA, so I'm just starting to get into those meetings. So I can't tell you if that's true or not, but I guess that's a good thing. Yeah, I'm sure it is. All right. Well, you have a great day, and thanks again for sharing your work. I'll talk soon.